There is a monetary regime shift coming. It happened in 1913 with the creation of the Federal Reserve, in 1933 with the confiscation of U.S. gold, in 1971 when Nixon took the U.S. off the gold standard, and when the last silver was removed from our coins. And now, a new one is knocking on our doors. I made a video 2 weeks ago regarding gold confiscation and if it's possible. When I hear news of a possible digital dollar coming, it solidifies that gold confiscation possibility even more. Hi everyone, welcome to Campbell's Coins. In this episode, we're going to touch on a topic that has been rumored for the past 4 years, but has really picked up steam since COVID began. The creation of the digital US dollar. It may not feel like things are changing, but they are. And now more than ever, you should get your hands on physical gold and physical silver. I'm going to go over what a digital dollar could look like, how it will be implemented, and more coming up. What are we currently seeing? Look at the insanity around you. The stock market at all-time highs. Please don't be tricked. The gains that we have seen recently, those are a fool's rally, designed to keep you in the system. Look at price to earnings ratios. They are higher than they have ever been. The stock market is doing well according to numbers, but there are a ton of people unemployed. Not just unemployed, they are struggling, having to go to food banks, not able to pay their rent or their mortgage. During times where we witness inequality of income and wealth, this is the time we see monetary shifts. This isn't the only indicator either. The printing of the dollar to infinity. The Fed announced QE infinity just last March. What is QE? Quantitative easing is a form of monetary policy used by the central banks as a method of quickly increasing the domestic money supply and spurring economic activity. In other words, money printing. In August 2020, actually since June 2020, just this last month though, in August, we printed more money than we used in the first 200 years of our nation. That's including the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, and the Cold War, and every crisis in between combined in just 1 month. That is a crap load of spending. We as a nation are running a debt level never seen before. The world is running a debt never seen before too. Inflation nears highs at these monetary shifts. The Fed has allowed an annual 2% inflation rate. They say that's quote-unquote healthy. This 2% inflation rate, of course, fluctuates. Sometimes it's 0.08, sometimes it goes up to 2, but 2% is what they consider healthy. If you were to compound 2% inflation rate over 10 years, that's 20% inflation over 20 years, you see where I'm going. Look at how things cost you 10, 20, maybe even 30 years ago compared to today. Well, just yesterday, September 8th, they announced that they will be comfortable with a moderate increase in this rate. Of course, they weren't specific on how high it will be or how much it will fluctuate. They just said they are comfortable with that. Inflation has been creeping higher and higher every year, so small that you don't really notice it in a couple of years. Just like if next year you go to buy something, you notice how much more expensive it is, you would notice that over, say, 20 years. You're like, oh, well, that was 20 years ago. And that is the whole point. When they are slowly introducing something that is bad, you don't know until it's too late. It's just like, what is the analogy of the frog in the pot of hot water? And the water's slowly going up in temperature, but the frog doesn't know until it's too late and then it boils to death. When I say they print money, they aren't even printing it, really. It's digitally created in the form of loans. So the essence of a digital dollar is already happening. We as the public have to be desperate enough to accept any new system so freely, and we are getting to that point. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there on a variety of topics, but one of them being COVID, and this is a plandemic. Plandemic, I'm sure you heard that term before, but when you look at the things that they are implementing while these crises are happening, it makes one wonder how much of this is a natural occurrence and how much of it is actually planned. Isn't it odd that these massive monetary changes happen when the public won't know what's going on or is so fed up with what is going on that they accept anything? These are all things we see around a monetary shift. And as if on cue, the Federal Reserve has begun building and testing this hypothetical digital dollar. What could it look like? I think it'll be a blockchain digital platform. Our identity will be tied to it along with our bank account and all other accounts. I am going on a little bit of a conspiracy journey here, and it's not really a conspiracy because there's actually articles out there that talk about how our identity will be digital by 2030. And I will go off on another video talking about that. But I think that this blockchain digital platform will have our identity tied to our bank account and all of the records, including vaccinations. The Fed announced on August 30th it was exploring 30 to 40 blockchain networks to see if they will support the digital dollar. With a digital currency, they have full control. Proposed names have been Fed Dollar. I've even heard it might be called Fed Coin to resemble and name some of the other cryptocurrencies out there. With a digital dollar, they can tax you and withdraw the money at will. For those of you who think cryptocurrencies are actually anonymous and untrackable, and all that other BS, if that were true, why would the Fed want to go with a digital dollar? In my experience, government wants to exert more control in our lives, not less. It is our job to make sure that they stay the hell out. So why would the Fed try to implement a trackless currency when their goal is more control? One eventually has to come to the logical conclusion that cryptocurrencies are in fact not anonymous and are trackable. How will this digital dollar be implemented? COVID is a perfect smokescreen to roll out this monetary change. It was even proposed in a stimulus bill in March 2020 and named as the Fed dollar. It's odd that in a bill designed to create stimulus, they snuck in this part about the digital dollar. This part of the bill was removed, but it seems like the Fed is looking to create a digital dollar all in its own. Why do I think this is happening? Well, besides all the articles out there talking about the Fed looking into blockchain technology to support a digital dollar, there are actually a few other indicators too. Coins are being removed from society. Physical cash is being turned into a villain as the carrier for the coronavirus, even though the CDC came out in May 2020 stating the coronavirus does not spread easily on surfaces. Try going to a bank and withdrawing a large sum of money. They will question you like you're a criminal for taking out your own money. Inflation is rising and so is unemployment. And when situations are created, wreaking havoc in their lives, people become desperate enough to accept unwelcome change. The government will make the shift extremely attractive. They will make it necessary. All transactions going forward must be done with the digital dollar. Failure to meet this requirement will result in fill-in-the-blank penalty. If they wanted to give it some legitimacy, they will back it to gold and possibly silver. If they do that, they will put out a ban on gold ownership. It's not going to be a confiscation in the sense of troops kicking in your door and physically grabbing it. It will be government passing legislation banning the ownership of gold. And there will be a heavy excise tax towards anyone who tries selling gold. They may allow ownership of collectible coins and jewelry because those were the caveats in the last gold ban. This is why I suggested those items in my gold confiscation video as a means of ownership to prevent your gold from being confiscated. How will this affect you besides, really horribly and negative? Tips: paying the kid down the street to mow your lawn, maybe even giving a few bucks to a friend. These are all trackable and taxable transactions in a cashless society. In a cashless society, banks and governments have full control over your funds. The institutions who rule over your funds can lock or freeze them because ultimately you have zero control.
Don't trust big banks or small banks. Banks are Ponzi schemes run by morons.
Why would they lock or freeze your accounts? Maybe you have dissident opinions that the government doesn't like. Or maybe you don't want to get a vaccine that they are forcing upon you. Or maybe you didn't pay enough taxes at some point. Boop! Funds frozen or gone. Look at how they injected people's bank accounts with the latest stimulus. Boom! You got $1,200 suddenly sitting there. The reverse could be true. A digital currency allows them to track all your purchases. It allows you to be controlled. Did you buy a gun? Now it's registered with them, and they can find you when the gun confiscation comes. Not just that, but they can punish you for purchases made in the form of taxes or fees. They can implement negative interest rates, forcing you to spend. Negative interest rates means you're charged for keeping your money in your account. This is currently not happening in the US, but they are trying it out in Europe right now, and we could see it here. In an upcoming video, I'll go over why I think the digital dollar will be tied with a digital identity, and with that digital identity comes more tracking and more control. Some think a digital dollar won't happen. Well, it's currently happening in a number of countries like Venezuela, Senegal, Sweden, Dubai, Japan, and Estonia, with other countries looking to do it like China, Canada, Israel, India, Iran, the UK, and now the US. So at this point, I don't feel it's a matter of if, but a matter of when. Are you prepared for this shift? You want physical gold and silver because you can always convert them into whatever the currency will be. You cannot convert a dead currency into gold and silver. What are your thoughts on the digital dollar? I'm sure that most in the precious metals community, stackers, collectors, are against one, but I'm curious to what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. This is Campbell's Coins, and that is my 2 cents.